Pushing on your pilots, made out that helicopter they're shooting at.
Hi, this is Apollo. In this video I'll be talking to you about the 3CB mission template. This template is intended to help you create Arma 3 missions for 3 Commando Brigade operations, allowing you to be creative by building on a standardised structure without worrying about many of the complicated technical issues relating to scripting or JIP. It's based on Altis, but can easily be ported across to other maps. So what does the template contain? A standard troop structure based on an HQ section, 3 close combat sections and a fire support group, plus Commando helicopter forces. Gear loadouts based on modern Royal Day marine equipment that can be modified using LEA's graphical user interface. Join in progress friendly scripting, tasks and briefings, a medical system using the XMedSys mod, BTC Logistics for packing crates into vehicles and helicopters lifting other vehicles, and fast rope insertion. Labels identifying infantry and vehicles. Map markers for designated groups like HQ. Cleanup scripts to remove dead bodies. Repair rearm scripts for vehicles. View distance scripts for players, and a few examples showing how triggers and task completion work for those of us who are new designers. So let's get down to installing and setting up the files. First of all, we need to download the 3CB template, in this case version 1.7. And I'll be putting this into my Arma 3 missions folder. So for me this is my documents, Arma 3 other profiles, then my 3CB username missions. You can see I've already got some missions in here, so I'm going to drag and drop this 3CB template, and there it is. And the first thing I'm going to do for my new mission is make a copy of this file so that I keep the original version for later reference, and I'll rename the copy. I'm going to change it to version 1. Version numbers are useful, you don't have to use them for your own internal development, but when you submit to 3CB we will need version numbers, and let's call it let's say Danger Close. That's going to be my mission name, so there we are, Danger Close. So now that we've created the folder, there are a few files that we're probably going to want to change. So let's go in here. First one I'm going to go to is description.ext. You may need to change your system so that .ext or .sqf or even .sqm files are opening with Notepad or Notepad++. So here we are, description.ext, and in here I'm going to change a few lines up here where it says edit these lines. So the author, I'm going to leave it Apollo, but you change that for your name. And then on load name, we're going to change that to the name of the mission. And you might want to change the text that comes up as well. So that's fairly straightforward. We're going to save that. Then the next thing we're going to do is go into the notes folder, to the changelog.txt. And at the moment this has got the information for the 3CB template that you just downloaded. So for your version you can delete everything and make it look like so. And as you go up in version numbers you can add notes here which say what you did. Again, totally optional for your own development. To prepare the loadout editor so that it has the profiles prepared for us when we want to add them to the units. And you can see that our template comes with an LEA profiles folder, and in here are lots of profiles suitable for 3 Commando Brigade with typical British Royal Marine kit for current day usage. So we're going to copy these files from the template into our LEA profiles folder. For me this is program files x86 LEA A3 profiles. You could put them in units or crates, that's where your existing LEA profiles will be, but if you put them in the root here they show up really easily when we come to add them in mission. So I'm just going to highlight and copy and put them in here. So again that's copying from the template to the LEA A3 folder. So now it's time to look at the mission in Arma itself. I'm using Play with 6. You can use Arma 3 Sync or various other ways, but play with 6 is generally the best way of doing it and the best way of keeping your mods in sync with the 3CB standard prerequisites. So having loaded, I'm going to go to the mods tab, and in my collections I've already downloaded from the repository the 3CB private ops. Here are the files. The mods. These mods are all the ones that I need for the template. I don't need all of them, but everything I need is in there. So I'm just going to launch the game from the 3CB private ops collection. Go to the editor and have a look at the template. We'll load up Altis, as that's what the template is based on, and go to load, and there you can see the two files we didn't have before, 3CB template and our new mission Danger Close. So we'll load Danger Close, and if we scroll up towards the central airfield, you can see all the playable units there. This is where their default position is, and very briefly you can see we have a 3-man hotel HQ section and 3 8-man close combat, so we have Alpha, Bravo and Charlie, and then some fire support group units. These are 2-man teams, and this lot here are very configurable. So the idea is that we have between 30 and 36 players currently for our co-ops. This group, 8 3 is 24 plus 3 27, so that leaves between 3 and 9 units to select generally from this group here. So for example, we have 2 medium machine gunners, medium AT, a Mark 6 mortar gunner and his assistant, an engineer, a repair specialist, sniper, spotter, helicopter pilot, and either a co-pilot or another pilot. So at this stage we need to decide what the composition of our playable units is going to be. You might decide that, for example, you don't want the missile specialists, so you might delete those units. You might not also want the engineers and the repair specialists. 2, 4, 6, 8. So that might be the makeup that we're going to go for. Another thing we can do while we're here is go to the advanced intel, and we'll change the name of the mission to reflect this will be Danger Close, and you can also change the description. Dangerous mission for dangerous people. You can change the time and the weather, etc. here as well. While we're here, a couple of other little extra things. You can see over here we have an ammo crate and a supply box. These two units just give you an example of how you can fill crates using the loadout editor. So graphically fill up crates. And also the XMedSys module is here. And slightly further down we have some triggers and tasks and markers, just to give you examples perhaps for new mission designers who aren't sure how to work some of this, and we'll talk about this later. But for now, you notice we haven't got a preview button. That's because all of these modules, units rather, are only playable, which would be right for multiplayer, but in the editor we need to go into one of them and change the control from playable to player. And having done that, we can now do a preview. So this is splash screen is configurable. You see we've changed it to Danger Close. The picture can be changed as well. That's changed in the description.ext. And here we are in mission, looking at our troops. What you'll notice first of all is that these guys are all wearing default NATO kit. So they're not currently equipped with the British Royal Marine Commando stuff. So that's going to be the next thing that we do, is change their kit. So we're going to abort out, back to the editor. Now we're going to go to LEA, to Loadout Editor. We can actually leave ourselves on this screen. We don't need to close the editor. We will just save it so that we commit these changes we made here to the units. And I'm now going to Alt-Tab back to desktop. So we'll run LEA for Arma 3. And first of all we will import the mission SQM to load in the units. We move to our Danger Close mission and select mission SQM and open. and here you can see the units. It's rather cryptic at the moment, so if we change the display from name to description, it makes it a little bit easier to understand. And if I highlight one of the units, at the moment you see it has no specific gear loaded. So select the unit with a left click, then right click and choose Apply Profile. And we should now see all of the profiles that we initially took from the template LEA profile folder and put into our LEA profiles, and we can now select the appropriate profile from here. So we're doing Troop Commander, so here we go, 3CB _ T for template, Troop 1IC. And there we see some gear specific for him. Here's his officer's beret, UK MTP CPT uniform, an Assault Osprey vest, Predator 45 backpack, and his L85 rifle. So we'll do the same for all of these other units, and it takes a little while to set up and do. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so that's the hotel and 3 close combat companies sections done. You may have noticed as I was whizzing through it there that the Alpha, Bravo and Charlie section commanders and fireteam leaders had separate profiles, and the main reason for this is that they have different smoke grenades. The Alpha section commander, for example, has blue smoke grenades and also green, red and white, which are the standard ones: white for obscuring, red for marking enemy position, and green for marking your own position, but blue perhaps also for marking an assault position for his fire team. And the fire team leader in his section also has blue grenades, whereas Bravo section has the green, red and white standard plus yellow, and the same for the fire team leader as yellow, and in Charlie he has purple. So it just gives just shows that you can use different profiles, even though they're the same role. They could have slightly different profiles, and we can see that with some of these other units in the fire support group. For example, we have 2 medium machine gunners in this group, but there are also two profiles, machine gunner 1 and machine gunner 2. So if I load those, first one with machine gunner 1, second one with machine gunner 2, and if you watch over here to the right hand side, when I flick between the two, you'll see minor differences in kit. So for example, the first guy doesn't have glasses and he has a straightforward Mark 7 helmet, and the second one in the team has glasses and scrim and a different uniform. So it just gives you a way of making some variety amongst the units so that not everyone's uniform. I'll put the mortar in as well. The mortar guys carry backpacks which include the mortar, and the sniper Of course, having set up these default loadouts, you'll no doubt want to change them a little, or perhaps even a lot, and this is done in just the normal way. So let's take, for example, the Charlie 2-1 fire team leader. If we wanted to add something to his vest, you would right click it to make it go orange, and then browse down through the equipment and the mods. Let's say we want to add some frag grenades or some flare rounds perhaps. Let's put a flare in. Just double click it. You can see it adds it in here. So it's as simple as that to make changes. If you don't want him to have the helmet, double click the helmet. If you've done all that and you think, oh no, I don't like that, and you want to go back, you can just literally right click, apply profile, find the profile in the list, and there he is back with his default kit. So, having done these apply profiles, we now need to save this. So we go to Mission, Save, and that saves a local copy in the LEA Missions folder. And then we need to create the loadout scripts which go into the mission, and that's done using mission generate loadout SQF. We browse to the correct mission folder, which is Danger Close. We're already there. Click Save. And we need to put ticks in all of these three boxes. We do want it to respawn with LEA loadouts. Click Generate. Script successfully generated in mission folder. Mission saved. So we're done here. We can now go back to Arma 3 and have a look at what the changes are. So here we are back in the editor. Here's our playable units. We still have Hotel 1 as a player unit, so we'll click Preview and have a look at what the changes are. Now, when we're using Chiori's L85, this message always comes up, this error message about FHQ optics. Don't worry about it, just click Close. And here we are. Now, if we have a look at Hotel 2 here, you can see his gear is different. Go and have a look at Bravo. There's Bravo's section leader with his Bowman radio. And he's got an HK416 now with a UGL. There's the AR guy in his Mark 7 helmet with an M249 Para. There's the rifleman, AT rifleman with an L85. And this guy is the medic. He looks pretty cool. Another AR guy. And a sharpshooter with an SR25. And if we pop back here, we can have a look at our fire support group. There's MMG1 with an M240 or GPMG. And you can see the gear chosen for these guys is a little bit more alternative, perhaps using Woodland DPM or something else to make them stand out. And here's our sniper and spotter. And finally the pilots. And you can see we've used a custom call sign for these guys, Jester1. Can be changed to anything you like. You'll notice while I'm looking at these guys, we're getting labels coming up. These are the custom labels, so it says the call sign and then the name of the player. Obviously these are AI units, so when you get in game with real humans, it will say the human name. Now we're briefly going to talk about civilian units. If I run over here, I know there are some to the southwest, a couple of civilians. They're a little way off in the distance if I use my binoculars. And rather embarrassingly, they've forgotten to put any clothes on when they came out. And that's because LEA will also script AI and OPFOR units. So we need to go back and tell LEA not to remove their clothes and just to use the default clothing. We will also go and have a look at how we can modify some of the kit having closed LEA and reopened it again. So I'm alt-tabbing now back to desktop. So I'm going to reopen LEA and I'll need to go to mission, import mission and re-import the mission that we're using, Danger Close, mission SQM. And it's asking me whether I want to overwrite the local copy. The answer to that is yes. Change the display name to description. And you can see the gear is remembered now for those units. Now we were talking about how to change the gear. Importing it was the important thing. We can just change the gear that we need to change and save it. We also mentioned the AI units, and at the moment we're looking at the unit type is playable. So if we change unit type to AI, we can see in here that there are 3 units, an OPFOR and 2 independents, and all 3 have been named. And we need to make these two civilian guys not be scripted by LEA, because at the moment they're being scripted to have no clothes. All we need to do is left click the unit and then right click it and on off scripting. So select it, right click, on off scripting, and that will tell LEA not to apply scripting to those units, and so they will stay with their default gear. While we're here, we'll also have a look at how to do the ammo crates. So if we go to empty in the switch unit type, here we see a list of any ammo boxes that we may have named, and in the mission at the moment we have 2, and we're going to supply those with gear from LEA profiles. So just in the same way that you did the unit profiles, you left click it to select it, right click to apply profile, and then in the list you will find coming with a template were 2 crates. So this is the supply box, so we'll give it the crate items, and here you can see gear that is specifically for the loadouts that we've created for the units. And we'll do the same for the ammo box, and we'll call that one the crate ammo profile, and there's all the ammo for all the weapons that everyone's got, plus some spare weapons and smoke rounds and a few missiles. As we do for the initial loading up, we need to save all this. So we click mission, save, and generate the loadouts. Make sure you're in the correct mission file, save it, tick the 3 boxes, click generate, and we're done. We're now going to look at the vehicle label script, also some of the BTC Logistics, and also how the vehicle repair works. And for that I need to be a pilot to make some of the helicopter stuff work properly. So I will make myself a pilot player and get in the mission. So I'm going to use MCC to bring myself in a vehicle. Let's bring in a hunter, an empty hunter. And so on the right hand side you can see the custom labels for when you're in a vehicle. It shows the vehicle type, who the commander, driver and gunner are, and whether or how many seats are free. Now if I take this vehicle over here, if I have a quick look on the map before I do that, you can see over here there's a marker showing a vehicle repair rearm. Of course you are able to take this and put it wherever you want on the map, or not at all. And the scripting that goes with it, so that when you drive the vehicle into this particular area, which on the template is marked by these concrete barriers, you'll see that it cuts the engine and it starts servicing the hunter and repairing and refueling. And pretty much any vehicle can be brought in here, and depending on the size of the vehicle and the amount of armaments, it will take longer or shorter. And it's also possible to go into the script, should you so wish, to change the values. And it works for helicopters. There we are, vehicle is repaired. I'm now going to bring in a helicopter and show you some of the features of the BTC Logistics. So again, I'm using MCC. Okay, I'm going to spawn in a Ghost Hawk. That was close. Again, we have our custom vehicle label. And because I'm a pilot, in a pilot slot, I get some options in my, if you look at the scrolling HUD, options in the top left, I can put the HUD on. You can see now in the middle of the screen, when I come near to vehicles, I get a radar HUD. I can also switch a camera on. That gives me an underview underneath the camera. Now I'm going to attempt to pick up this vehicle, this hunter. My flying is horrible, so I do apologise in advance. You can see I can use the radar screen and the camera to try to position myself over the top of the hunter. And yes, I have switched on auto hover. And you can see that I had a lift option, and now as I pull up, we've now got an underslung hunter. Okay, so now I've spawned in another helicopter, an MH9, and also an ammo box. And what you can do with logistics, you can scroll your wheel and you can drag. And then when you want to put it in the helicopter, you can select it, and then you can load it. And if we check the vehicle, we can see its cargo, which includes the basic weapons box, and we're able to unload it should we want to. So let's get into the helicopter. Seat belts on. And the last thing to show you with the helicopters is the fast rope option. So while we're in the air, scrolling the wheel, we can deploy a rope. And that will allow people to fast rope out. And then we can also cut the rope Any flight I make in a helicopter that I can walk away from is a good one. Now we're going to have a look at some of the additional files that can be edited. So we go to our missions folder, danger close, and in here we have various folders. If we go to the images folder, these are a couple of images which are shown either in the briefings or in the mission load screens. They're included so that you can use them as templates for the sizes. But you're able to add more and change these. In the notes folder, we've discussed the change log already. There's also a forum post .txt file, and this is the information that we put on the 3 Commando Brigade forums to describe the mission, to give some background, and also for people to sign up to the various slots that we have available. So it'd be handy if when you've finished creating your mission you were able to fill this in with as little or as much detail as you can, just to aid the operations coordinator. There's also a mods.txt file where you should write any of the mods that you have required in the mission, and as usual it should be kept to the 3CB prerequisites with maybe a few extra, but don't go overboard. Then we have in the scripts folder titles.sqf. At the beginning of the mission some titles will come up on the right hand side, and these are displayed or changed down the bottom here. So you change the information that's inside these inverted commas to be relevant to your mission. And then in the root of the folder we have briefing.sqf. This is where the briefing that shows in the player's map screen on the diary, and also where the tasks are created. So to start with, you can see this template creates situation, mission, logistics, medical system, mods and credits, and it does them in reverse order. So situation will be at the top, followed by mission, and with credits at the bottom. And you can change any of the text that's inside here. The chevron BR /chevron means leave a line break, and two of them together mean leave a gap. So that's how you create a briefing, should you want the players to be able to read something at the map. And then the tasks, and the tasks are created task 1, 2 and 3. There are 3 tasks in the template, and just by following through it's relatively self-explanatory. In Notepad++, the bits in green are telling you the text, and it's the text that you would change. And these marker names are related to the markers that are on the editor, which we'll have a look at in a moment. So basically you create the task in here, you tell it the position relation to a marker, and you set the tasks, whether they're assigned or not. It's a little bit more complicated and you may need a little bit of extra help, but the template's here, and you can play with this until you understand it. The init.sqf, there's only a few things for you to edit in here, mainly between these lines here. Edit these lines. This is to do with the XMedSys parameters. You can change, for example, you can change how long before a player bleeds out after they've gone unconscious. The default is 600 seconds, which is 10 minutes. 300 seconds, 5 minutes seems to work quite well. You can decide whether the XMed system tells you that you've got 25% health, or whether you're just very badly hurt using this. So here we are in the mission editor, and we're going to take a look at how the tasks and the triggers work in relation to the briefing.sqf file. Let's get into the mission, and we'll have a look at the map and check out the briefing. So we're looking at the map, and here's the briefing with the text that we could enter. And there are also tasks, and there are 3 tasks included with the template which go through perhaps 3 different scenarios which might be useful in your missions. The first task is how to trigger and detect when certain units have been killed. So in this case we want to eliminate Mr. Big and Mr. Ben by killing them. The second task is how to detect when units have entered a particular zone. So you might have a guard zone which triggers and then sets off an alarm or brings in reinforcements, or something else happens. And then the third task is how do you detect when an enemy unit detects a friendly unit? So if you move in front of a guard unit and he sees you, how do you set off an alarm or trigger something else to happen? So we'll run over to the civilians over here. Mr. Big and Mr. Ben, who apparently are doing a shady deal. And say goodbye, guys. You notice as soon as they're both dead, we get a task completion method come up, message, and if we look at the map, it's now showing that eliminate the criminals is ticked, is complete. Okay, on the map, the second task, enter the red zone, find and move to the red shaded area. Here you can see a red shaded area that we've put with a marker. We're currently here, so we're going to move down southeast. And as soon as we enter this area, we should see a task complete. There we go. Red zone entered, task 2 complete. So you notice there's no obvious thing on the floor that I've triggered. It's purely to do with a marker on the map. Again, task is complete. And the third task is how you can go about setting a trigger that says when an Op4 guy detects your presence. So behind this blue crate there should be an Op4 guard. We're going to sneak up on him. And there we are. He sees us. And there we have a mission completed. So all 3 tasks were completed. We can look at, in the briefing, we can look at the 3 tasks that we did and the kills we got. So how did that work? Well, back on the editor. In the editor we can see the 2 civilian units. If we click on markers, we can see that there's a small marker here called marker task 1. This is an empty marker, so it doesn't show, and it's been given the name marker task 1, and that's what's referenced in briefing.sqf so that the task will actually point you to a particular location. It gives you the area for the task. And then there's a trigger, this blue flag. If we open the trigger up, the basics of this is it has a name, it's triggered once, and the condition for it is, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, if not alive Civ 1 and not alive Civ 2, then the trigger will be triggered. So that means if Civ 1 is not alive, in other words is dead, and if civilian number 2 is also not alive, i.e. dead, then it will do whatever is on action. And the action is to put a hint on the screen, Mr. Big and Mr. Ben are dead, task 1 complete. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is to set the task to be completed so that the map screen updates with the task completion. So again, if you're not quite sure of this, you've got it as a template. You can probably either copy and paste it or use it to understand how it works. So for the second task, that was to enter the red zone and set off an alarm. We've put down a marker, that's the red marker. If I go to units and back to markers, you can see the marker. And there's also a trigger in the center of the marker. And this trigger is activated by blue 4, that's us. Again, it's once, and it's activated when blue 4 are present. And when it's activated, the action is to again put a hint on the screen saying that the red zone has been entered, and to set the task to task state of succeeded. And the third item was to be detected by the Op4 guard. So here's our trigger. In this case, the trigger is in a defined square, so we're only going to be detected by the guard inside this area. The trigger shape is positioned or created from this ellipse or rectangle with a size. Activated by blue 4 once, when detected by op 4, and as before an action to set the task complete and to put a hint on the screen. So those were the 3 tasks, 3 different types of tasks which might be useful. And the fourth thing was, how does the mission know when all of the tasks are complete and to finish the mission? So we have a 4th trigger, and this trigger will produce an end, so the type is an end trigger. And the condition for the trigger is when all 3 triggers have been completed or are activated. So the call is trigger activated trigger 1, and this trigger 1 is the name, and trigger 2 and trigger 3 is the name of the other triggers. So we just check on that. This task 2 trigger was called trigger 2, and this one was trigger 3. So when all of those 3 triggers are activated, then end number 1 will be called, which is to end the mission with a success. And there are various types of ending or other. You can have a losing one as well. So for example, you may have, if all blue 4 are killed, you may have a losing. Or if a hostage is killed, again, you could detect that with a trigger and use a lose. I hope the template and this tutorial will have been of some interest and use to 3 Commando Brigade mission designers, and look forward to receiving all your creative contributions in the future. If you're not already part of 3 Commando Brigade and you'd like to know what all the fuss is about, please come and visit us at www.3commandobrigade.com, and you'll be assured of a very warm welcome, and we hope to see you out on the battlefield very soon.